Peace, family. Um, this video depicts how Ron Santos, the governor of Florida, has banned Black history from public schools. So Al Sharpton, your leader, is on MSNBC discussing this topic. I'm going to let them comment on this, and I'm going to give you my rebuttal as we go along. Listen to this.
All right, Californian here. Gavin Newsom had to say about this.
What you're seeing across the spectrum is vulnerable minorities being targeted by these with a zest for demonization, using this for political purposes. This anti-wokeism is just racism in disguise. It's the welfare queen from Reagan. It's Nixon's. That's all the Southern strategy. Nothing new here. It's the one thing it has in common in every respect: women, minorities, being attacked and demonized and used under this broad trope of wokeism, and it sickens me.
Listening to him, it strikes me that part of the conversation has to be that it should not fall to African Americans or women or migrants and asylum seekers to push back. It should fall to all Americans to push back against what Danielle just accurately describes as regressive policies and politics.
You see, right there, Al Sharpton should have jumped all over her for saying that. It does not fall on all Americans to safeguard the rights and privileges of Black people. It falls directly on Black people to do that. Educating Black people equally than everybody else, employing Black people equally than everybody else, paying and promoting Black people equally than everybody else, flies right in the face of what's in the best interest of white people. You do that, you will be having white people work against their own best interests. And they are not going to do that. This is why it is incumbent upon Black people to work in their best interest by providing their own standards of education, their own opportunities to employ themselves, building their own businesses and industries. It is not all Americans are not going to do this, but no. Let's continue with this.
All they got is their anti-wokeism jihad. That's it.
I think that Huckabee Sanders' rebuttal showed that he has really no program other than to go back into the demonizing of people that tried to move this country forward. And what they're doing is a states' rights movement. Let's remember, the whole battle for civil rights in the 60s was to get federal law to protect blacks and others from states' rights. And that's why this Wednesday we're marching on DeSantis in Tallahassee, and also appealing to the federal government, because if we have to go state by state to protect African American history, to protect LGBTQ rights, to protect the rights of women, once you go back into a states' rights, states apparatus, then we are not talking about 1960, we're talking about 1860. That's what the Confederates were about in the Civil War. And for DeSantis to be able to try and polish this up and have manicured Confederate behavior, saying, well, in this state you won't learn this about black history, in this state you won't learn about gays, and in this state we're going into a model that we thought we resolved in the Civil War, and we need to call it what it is.
There was so much wrong with his response. It's sad. But I apologize for that little glitch in the video. But first of all, Ron DeSantis is a governor. He's a politician. He's paid by tax dollars. And Florida has a large population of Black people. When you have a governor telling the schools and the public school system that they can't teach Black history in a state where you have a high population of Black people, that means your tax dollars is being used against your best interest. And you have a civil rights leader that's sitting back, ignoring that. So now you not only are your tax dollars going down the drain, but the money you're paying this fool is falling right behind it. We have 100 HBCUs, all of them crying for federal funding and all that stuff. Al Sharpton is an opportunity for him to say, well, if the state want to take away your rights to educate yourselves, educate your children in the best interest that benefits them, then go to the HBCUs. They all colleges are paid by tax dollars. You cannot have a politician taking your rights away to educate your children and teaching them the ways of their oppressor. You know, and you know, by Ron Santos able to go back to fighting states' rights with something that you supposedly had resolved back in 1960, until black people modernized their goals for civil rights and start building their own businesses, industries, and institutions. They can go back to 1960, 1860, and 1760. There's nothing going to stop them. Once you start building your own institutions, then privatizing them, nobody can tell you what to do. Nobody can take it away from you. Why DeSantis is doing this is because, first of all, he's been elected governor. And black people has done nothing to secure their own means, to supply their own essential needs. Your education, your health, your finances, your food, your politics, these are all essential needs. And Al Sharpton is not going to talk about nothing about blacks owning and controlling these institutions. Everything that we get has to be given to us or allowed for us to have by somebody else. This guy is an absolute joke. But let's continue.
The rhetoric that turns into state legislation, that we're on the air with this today because it's being exported across the country, has at its core dehumanization of your next door neighbor, dehumanization of the teacher you see every day when you drop off your kid, dehumanization of anyone different from whatever it is around your table at night. Dehumanization is the key that unlocks everything they're seeking to do. How do you rewire an entire political party that's predicated on having you go along with dehumanization?
First of all, while Al Sharpton is sitting there listening to that question and like he's trying to think of something to say, let me say this. Ron Santos is doing today what the Willie Lynch letter did back in slavery times. When Willie Lynch saw the uprising of blacks and he seen that people were killing their slaves, he wrote out a plan to keep slaves fighting amongst each other and said it would last for 400 years. And he was going around from plantation to plantation, passing this message around. By Ron Santos passing this bill to strip schools of teaching black history, and then other states are picking up on this. This is to prevent the so-called wokeism that they're afraid of, and to keep blacks from so-called revolting against them. And they want to do this through education. If you don't stop them there, they'll start attacking your employment and every other thing that you need to sustain your way of life. This is, like I said, this is the Willie Lynch letter that's going to be bouncing around from state to state. Wherever this wokeism that they fear pops its head up, they're going to pass legislation to try to silence you and keep you fighting and bickering amongst each other. They want to do everything they can to harass black people. And black people, we have tried everything. We tried to love our enemy. We tried to turn the other cheek, forgive them. We work for them. We tried everything but organize. If black people organize around building their own essential needs and services, they won't be able to do this to you. It's just as simple as that. But let's continue.
But I worry about all the people's lives, all the kindergartners who on back to school night feel like they can't introduce their two moms to their other friends in the kindergarten class. I worry about the human toll today.
And that is why there has to be mobilization and questioning around the country, because in the interim, before you get to the polls and beat them politically, you cannot let them change the culture where you have young kids in a LGBTQ family or black kids who no longer can learn their history or Latino kids who can see people of their race and that or nationality put on a plane and just flown to a democratic state like they're nothing. You can't have them grow up with that sense of that they are other. It's the ultimate white male supremacy. They are not us. You never heard these people say, well, we can't have Confederate statues because that would hurt people's feelings. But learning about blacks may upset somebody, and learning about gays may upset somebody, and learning about Latinos may upset somebody. But knowing our history doesn't upset anybody because we're superior. And if you let kids begin to grow up like that, we're going back to an America that we fought not to have. The base of this is to make them not only feel other, those of us that are black or gay or women or whatever, it's to make them feel superior. And it's the ultimate supremacy that they're after, even more than they're after elections.
That was absolutely, well, first of all, you can't rewire people. People are what they are. And white people are envious and jealous at the core. These are the people that presided over enslaving others for almost 300 years. You can't reprogram them. They are what they are. You know, and we have a black leader sitting up here that's champion supposed to be black rights. Now you LGBTQ rights, all this other bruh. Can you focus on one thing? You know, the only thing that you can show the progress that you made for black people is your weight loss. How you went from 300 pounds to 97 pounds. That's it. Other than that, you serve no purpose for blacks. We need to put our tax dollars to work building schools and in industries that we pay for in black communities, and pay for some black leadership that can stay single-mindedly focused on doing things for black people. This is absolutely ridiculous. I'm going to see y'all in my next video. Ashe.